to the Kitchen Garden program. Today we are going to be making silver beet and cheese triangles. And one of my little girls here has given us some eggs, so we're ready to go. Today, before we do some cooking, we're going to go over our knife handling skills. We're going to start with our chopping board. We put a nice damp cloth underneath there to stop it slipping around. That gives it really good grip. So then we've got to pick up our knife with whichever hand you want to use, making sure you're really safe and slow. Everything you need to do needs to be slow and thoughtful and not rushed. So the most important thing is practicing how we're going to hold our other hand when we're holding the food. It's a great idea to form a bear claw. This protects your fingers when you're cutting and make sure those little fingertips aren't vulnerable and getting in the way of the blade. So if we're really cautious and careful, we'll be fine. So with our bear claw holding our cucumber here, we're going to cut off the end. Spin it around, cut off the other end. And it's a really good idea when you've got something that rolls around like this to cut it down the middle so you've got two flat surfaces to work off. And the best technique for that is what we call making a little bridge. So you make a bridge and put the knife through the tunnel there and cut really slowly and carefully down the length. And then you've got two flat surfaces so your food isn't rolling around. And then it's simply a matter of chopping that up. So using your bear claw again, keep your fingers nice and safe and just very slowly slicing like that. So that's that simple really. Another method you can do if you've got something a bit harder to chop and you want to keep your fingers out of the way is putting the hand on top of the knife blade and use a rolling motion to cut, just rocking back and forth, cutting like that, keeping that hand nice and safely out of the way. And you'll see me do that when I'm chopping up the silver beet today. So that's what we're doing. The other little tip is when you're walking with a knife, always make sure you're holding the knife really safely down by your side so that you don't accidentally bump into anybody. And the other thing is washing in the sink. You can either leave that to a grown-up or make sure you never put it in the bottom of the hot soapy water so that you find it later when you're rummaging with your hands. Okay, let's get cooking. Okay, I'm down here in another part of my garden. I've got a little collection of pots growing all sorts of greens here. I've got silver beet, I've got bok choy, I've got cabbages coming on. I've got these little pretend butterflies in the hope of scaring away the cabbage moth, but it's not really working, so I wouldn't even bother. So I'm going to pick some silver beet and spinach for the cheese and spinach triangles. So I've got some silver beet here, a few leaves, I've got lots of spinach. And when I've got enough, I'll take it upstairs and give it a really good wash and we'll be ready to cook the cheese and spinach triangles. Okay, welcome back to the kitchen. I've washed my hands really well and now I'm going to wash all the silver beet and spinach leaves in my salad spinner. Fill it up, give it a good push around. And you simply drain the water away and give them a really good stir. There we go, nice and dry. Now with our silver beet, we don't want to eat the stalks, so we're going to tear the leaves off the stalk and chop them all up nice and fine. The finer the better. Get our chopping board happening. So I'm going to take some time, get all these prepared, and then we'll come back and show you how to cook them up. Okay, I've got the stalks all removed, so I'll pop them in my little tub to take down to the chickens later. And I'm going to just chop this up pretty roughly. Keep going till they're nice small pieces. I've got my fry pan heating up. Now you can add anything you like to the fry pan to give this a bit of extra flavour. You can do some crushed garlic, you can add some herbs, you can add butter if you like. I'm going to use some garlic infused olive oil to give a little bit of extra flavour. Okay, so I'll take the board over to the frying pan, pop it in. First I'll put in my oil, generous swoosh of oil. This garlic infused olive oil is fantastic. Really good way of getting some flavour in really easily. So we want to see it all nice and soft and wilted so that when we make our little triangles, it doesn't take up too much space. Just gently waiting and stirring and keeping it moving until they have softened. The silver beet and spinach is cooked down nicely. You can see how much it shrinks down. There's not much there now anymore. So our next job is to set the oven to 200 degrees. And then we need to spread out our pastry sheets and get them thawing out and softening while we assemble the rest of the ingredients. We need 4 pastry sheets. Next step is grating 2 Granny Smith apples, but any apples will do. We're going to use the big setting on our box grater. We'll grate all those apples. The apple gives it a really delicious flavour. It sounds unusual, but to have the apple and cheese is always a good combo. Just adds a little bit of tang to our triangles. So we've got 2 apples in there, we've already done 1. We need to weigh our ricotta. So I'm going to use my scales here. I need 200 grams. Yeah, one buck. So looking for the little G for grams, and I need 200. Bit much. That'll do. All right, pop that in with our apple. Then we need half a cup of grated cheese, tasty cheese. Again, the large setting on the box grater. Which probably is enough. And we're going to pack that in nice and tight so we get lots of cheese. Cheese is always good. All right, so that's our half cup. And then we want 2 eggs lightly beaten. So I'm going to break them into this measuring bowl. Thank you to the chickens. Oh, look at that. That was lucky. A double yolker. Very exciting. I'll give a little whisk with my fork. And I can catch all the rest of that little bit of ricotta. And mix it in with the rest of our ingredients. So you can add salt and pepper if you like. It's totally up to you. And as I said, you can add different herbs and spices. Use your imagination. All right, I think that's everything. Just check my recipe. Oh, I forgot the lemon rind. So you want to do the rind of 1 lemon, and you want to just use one of these little fine graters for this, and you want only the very edge of the lemon, only the very yellow bit. I'm sure you've all heard me say it in class before. If you go down deeper than the very edge of the yellow, that white stuff there, the pith, is really bitter. So we don't want that. We just want the very edge of the skin. You want to keep moving around the whole lemon. You just get all that off. There we go. That's looking pretty good. That's going to have heaps of flavour. We can mix in our silver beet and spinach now. And we've got our mixture. Okay, we're ready to go with our mixture. We've got I put some salt and pepper in there. Give it a nice big stir, and now we're going to cut our pastry triangles into 4 quarters. And every one of those little squares will be a triangle. So I'm going to put some mixture into the middle, off to one side though. And then we brush the edges with some milk. And then we're going to fold them over. Peel it off the plastic backing. pinch down the edges. Some of it might ooze out a bit. Now, I didn't mention squeezing the juice out of the silver beet and the apple. If your mixture's looking a bit wet, sometimes that's a really good idea. So if you use a fork, you can crimp those edges together and make a nice good seal so they don't leak when they're cooking. You can give a little poke on the top to let the steam out. And that's it, that's our first triangle. Pop it on a tray lined with baking paper and brush it again with some milk. And they'll come out nice and golden brown. The milk will make them go golden brown. So I'll show you one more and then we'll pop them in the oven. Remember, not too much mixture, it's hard to get them to close. So brushing it with the milk, just on two sides is fine. Pull it off the paper and pinch along the edge. And crimping with our fork. Little air holes. Put it on the tray. A little bit of a gap there. And brush that with milk. So I'll pop them in the oven and show you how they turn out. They are out of the oven and looking absolutely amazing. So there you have it, our cheese and spinach and silver beet triangles made with beautiful veggies from the garden and eggs from the chickens. So why don't we go out and have some fun in the garden now?